All right, welcome back to Foiling Week 2021 and the Gurit Forum. I am your host, Chris Museler, still reporting from Jamestown, Rhode Island, but we have people all over the place right now. My co-hosts, Bruno Gentoli and Laura Marimon, are joining us again on day 3 of the forum. And also our guests are from Lago de Garda, which is, we're talking about the sailing speed record, or the outright, world sailing speed record. And that is currently 65.45 knots, I think, set by Team Sail Rocket and Vestas Sail Rocket with Paul Larson. We had Paul and Don Montague on the forum yesterday, and they were talking about these two teams, SP80 and Sirocco. SP80 right now are in Lago de Garda at Foiling Week, and that is Maël Vandenbroek, Xavier Leperc, sorry if I messed that up, Benoit Gaudiel. And from Sirocco in Marseille, we got Alex Kazar. Say it one more time.
Alex Kazerg.
Alex Kazerg, Romain Lanos, and Thomas Gaudiel. So he is Benoit's brother. So it's really fascinating to have two people trying to break the speed record from the same household. and that's going to be an interesting conversation. We have these two teams here, and I said at the time when we talked about this, just speed records in general, where the design information goes once people break records, how does that help the industry design? And I talked to Paul Larson and Don Montague about that. Don Montague is an innovator, particularly well known right now for the kite boat and innovating in speed with kites and foils. And I said back then, that's kind of the one area that everyone gets excited about. Some people are excited about e-foiling. Some people are excited about surf foiling, UFO boats and moths. But right now, this is kind of the thing that everyone wants to talk about. And hydrofoils have really revolutionized the speed record. Alex set the speed record at least once, right, in kiteboarding? Twice. And what was your last benchmark in kiteboarding?
In kite, my last record is the current kite record at 107.3 kilometers per hour, which is 57.98 knots.
Awesome. Absolutely terrifying when you don't have anything around you. So I think what I want to start this conversation off with is just a little introduction to the teams. And I want to bring up a point that Paul Larson brought up, which is that he said nature quite carefully has separated how to live and work and play and move above the water and below the water. But that really, he called that really rough surface in between is a challenge that nature decided not to deal with. and it's one that we're dealing with. And the reason why I bring up Alex's records is that, up to a certain point, 10 years ago or whenever that was, when he set that benchmark, or at least actual record, not even just a benchmark, was that the kiteboards were on the surface of the water. And the solution for Vestas Sail Rocket was this pod on the surface of the water and this solution for opposing forces. And he had a hard wing instead of a kite, but it looked very similar to a kite surfer going along the water. What these two projects are endeavoring to do, and I'm going to let them explain some of the differences, are to try to avoid, like nature, as much as they can, that underwater and air interface, and that's where hydrofoils, whether they be lifting or resistance, come into play. So we're going to start with SP80, and I wanted to know if you can give. We're going to start broad because our community in Foiling Week and beyond doesn't know a lot about speed sailing sometimes. Give us the brief on your project, like the brief on the physics involved in your project that you think will solve the problem of getting over 65.45 knots.
Thanks. So thanks a lot, Chris, for the introduction. I would say that the discussion with Paul about speed sailing and the way the boats are designed now, it's quite the same concept always, like for the 10 last years, since the record from Paul is to to have this opposite force with the wing in the air and the kite under the water. And I would say that this surface, like the water, is really interesting because it's the only environment, I think, where you can ensure yourself in the fluid, so in the water, and you can create this force that allows you to move in straight lines. So it's really interesting to have this interface, but you're right that the difficulty is to be skimming on the surface or to be just flying over it. And so with the design with SDIT, so we decided to have this kite, so to create the power. I think like Alex and I are coming from kitesurfing, so we've been competing together a few years ago before I started engineering school. So we know about kitesurfing, we know about going fast with a kite, but now the idea is we want to have this boat to do the interface between the water and the air. And so we decided to stay on the water. So we've got 3 floats on the boat, just skimming the surface. So it's going to be really light on the water, just skimming it, and with this foil anchoring the boat in the water. So that's really the point. You got one kite in the air, one foil on the other side. So the balance between them, and then the boat is just the interface for the pilot to control it.
And as far as that control pod, if you will, is the goal for that to, we look at the moths out on Lake Garda right now, and they go through this, within the rules, such a fine degree for their aero packages, right? Their deck sweeping mass covering, just a little control cleat, just a little cover on it. Even for a moth that's only going 20 knots upwind and 28 knots downwind, for that fuselage is, to get into the weeds a little bit, does that have to be as small as possible? Or for these speed records, it's not about volume, it's more about just some aeronautical ideas?
It's kind of different because with the kite, so this is the main difference with Paul. We are using a kite which will allow us, we believe, to carry much more power than what Vestas had. But the good thing, and as we carry much more power, then the drag, the aerodynamic drag, for example, of the platform is becoming less important because you have like Sirocco calls it like a multi-body speedcraft, and it's interesting because you have what's in the water, you have what's in the air, and you have the pod in the middle. And the middle is like it's like fixed drag. It's like kind of it's useless, and the drag of the airfoil and the hydrofoil is useful. It's useful drag because it creates like a forward lift, and so all the when you increase power, the proportion of the drag of the platform, the pod, the hydrodynamic, like the float, for example, skimming on the surface, or the aerodynamic drag of the pod is then becoming much less important. So of course we are optimizing everything, but the fact of carrying more power and having like not unlimited power, but is changing the game. And like on a foil, on a mod, you have fixed power. So like the aerodynamic is extremely important. The America's Cup boat also. And for us, it's a little bit different. And sometimes,
but we still need to optimize it.
Exactly. So we are optimizing it as much as we can. But when it comes to like, so it's always a compromise, because having, for example, Vestas Sail Rocket had a very, very aerodynamic package, but it's going 25 degree sideways. And do you want to go at 150 kilometers like sideways on the track? No. So it's always a compromise between like power, drag, and safety and like stability. So.
Great. And that actually makes a lot of sense to me. Well done. So Sirocco, same question. Maybe just give me the basic physics of the your package and the concept. And please use Sail Rocket or SP80 as a comparison, so we understand the differences.
Okay. Okay. Basically, when you're trying to design a fast boat and something, when to break the speed limit, you are dealing with two problems. One is the power. SP80 was talking about it. You have to deal with power and efficiency, and you have to find the best compromise between the two. At least I think there is two different philosophies to see the possibility to break the record. You can go. You can try to go with power, which means that you will break the speed limit using more wind, or you're following the path using efficiency, which means that you're trying to limit the power that you will use and trying to use it the best you can. Even if all of those concepts are coming from the same origin, we are all children of SP of sail rocket, but the philosophy we had was to say, okay, we don't want to deal with massive power. We want to go into efficiency, and because using a kite in very, very strong winds, big kites in strong winds is going to be very, very tricky, difficult, and even dangerous. We said we want to achieve the speed record with an efficiency philosophy. So that's why we ended up with our concept. And the big challenge of the concept was to say, okay, the biggest component of drag in sailboats in general is often coming from the interaction of the boat itself with the free surface of the ocean. So we wanted to get rid of the surface basically and say, okay, we will put in the water the less component possible, the smallest surface possible, and we're going to try to stay outside of the water for all of the system. But basically, we are in the same philosophy as SP80 and sail rocket. That means we are trying with forces aligned in opposite direction, and this is at least one of the solutions that can help you to get rid of the power problem. You don't have any more stability and righting moment question to solve. So you can deal with very high power. The only limit is then your capacity to build a structure that can handle these powers, or your capacity to control the big aerodynamic surface. So we are the same philosophy, but we've been very inspired by the work done by Luc Armand in his master's thesis, which has been one of the guys who's been working a lot on this type of boat. And basically, we started with the idea of putting a kite and an hydrofoil in opposite direction, and as we had to put Alex somewhere in the boat, we said, okay, we have to build something in the middle where to put Alex and the system to control. But as has been said before, the fuselage of the boat has no interest in the behavior of the boat.
Right.
Basically, if we could do it without, it would be even better. So that's the philosophy behind our concept, and that's it for me.
Cool. I want to get this one point out of the way. Are you allowed to set a speed record without a person in it?
No.
Okay. Okay. I'm just checking.
It will be a drone sailing speed record.
Okay. There you go. And that would be a benchmark, right?
No.
One of the reasons why I ask is because we know as we move on with, and we know this in Foiling Week over the years, the America's Cup technology, some cruising foiling catamarans, that the autonomous work that they've done, that Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli early days learned with their control systems, is a lot of times, just like autonomous vehicles, we're getting to the point where the computers and like in the Vendée Globe, the computers can do a really awesome job driving the craft. Along those lines, are there any simulators besides the design simulators? Are there simulators that can help figure out how to drive these craft? You know, how to control them?
Maybe the VPP.
Yeah, on our side, we've been working on performance prediction program, with, like VPPs. We've been developing our tool because there was no option on the market for us to work with. The biggest complexity for us was to be able to predict the performance of a system which is a multi-body system, and that's not something that is very that's something that you meet often in the sailing world. There are no capacity with the existing tool to simulate this kind of systems. Mm-hmm. So we've been mostly working on performance prediction, but in the static situation, looking at the equilibrium and trying to maximize the performance of the craft. We are going to also go into the simulation and in order to evaluate the equilibrium and the capacity to drive the speedcraft, but we are not yet here at that moment. Our first focus was to optimize the performance and use those tools to help us to make the good choice at the beginning in terms of concept and systems and philosophy. And then when we, in the second phase of the project, which is going to start almost next week, we're gonna go into this.
Great.
And of course, if you have a program that helps you learn how to drive the craft before putting a feet inside or putting a craft in the water, of course it's useful. But you have to confront it. I don't know if you can use it in English, but you have to oppose it to real life testing.
Yeah.
And,
but I think our philosophy since the beginning was to really go into the water as fast as we can, and it's been like a year now. So we have it's really like a multi-body element. So we have really a kite in the air, a foil in the water, and each element got its own stability at the end. So we can test each element separately, and it has been our work for the last year to develop those systems, to develop a foil which are able to control with RC controller. And the idea for us is really to get on the water as fast as we can, because it's quite tough to see everything on the computer. So we have a lot of physical phenomena which are quite complex to modelize in any case, like the ventilation, the cavitation, the interaction with the free surface. And I think that's been really important for us to go as fast as we can on the water, to test the system, to test all our geometries, and to be able to control them. Yeah.
Cool. And I want to ask two questions, and I'm going to throw it over to Bruno and Laura. One of them has to do with that power versus efficiency that you guys were talking about. And then the other one literally has to do with the different types of appendages used in the water. So SP80 versus Sirocco, the different types of hydrofoils being used. So I'll throw it over to the SP80. Is there for your project, what's the wind range that you're predicting to be good to break through that 65 knot barrier? Because I have this thought that Sirocco, when they started talking about efficiency, I'm like, can you break the 65 knot barrier in any wind range depending on the craft? Can you break it in 10 knots? Can you times 6 the speed? Because kites were the first to go times 4, right? In hydrofoils. So maybe for SP80, what's the wind range that you think will be for your craft? And for Sirocco, maybe it's different because of your approach.
Yeah, well, it depends. The thing is that this is the big advantage of using a kite is that you can switch the size of the kite as you can switch the size of the foil. So
yeah,
like you can go out and, like, for example, when we will start to sail, we will be able to put a 12 square meter kite, a 15 square meter kite, a 20 square meter kite, and then we're going to be able to ramp up. And as we learn, so like this at the beginning, we don't take any risk, and then we fiabilize the systems. We discover the behavior of the boat. We make sure it matches with the simulator, and then, like, if there's 20 knots, like if for example, like on a record day, if there's 20 knots, then we could be able to put, like, I don't know, like 30 square meter kite. Then if there's more wind, then you reduce the size of the kite and you go for 20 square meter kite. So it's really, it's a very versatile craft compared to, for example, Paul Larsen that has one fixed size of wing. And if there's 30 knots, he cannot sail because it's too much. If there's 25 knots, he can sail, but he won't break the record. So this is big advantage of our concepts, and I think it's the same thing for CRT.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about the breeze that I saw when Alex broke his record, probably in a trench, that it was, like 50 knots, it was hammering.
And over.
That's fast.
And over.
Yeah.
So Sirocco, same question. What's the range for you guys? Obviously, you may not be using a 20 square meter, air wing.
No. Basically, when you know the target speed you want to reach, and you know the target wind you want to use, you know exactly what is the global efficiency of your craft, and you know what is going to be your apparent wind angle, and basically it's a very, very important information. I could say that we're targeting around 30 knots of wind for the speed record. But yes, as far as you go up in terms of apparent wind speed or true wind speed, that means that you have a decrease of the efficiency of your craft. So even if you change the size of your foil and your kites, as soon as they remain the same kind of kite and foil, and they have the same efficiency in the water and in the air, it doesn't change the global efficiency of your system. So basically, we think in the opposite way. We're trying to maximize the efficiency of our system, and this gives us the global efficiency of the craft that we're going to build. And with this number, which is a single number of the global efficiency, we know what is the wind, the true wind speed and true wind angle we are going to use. And we know that we cannot go at lower speed of wind because we don't have the efficiency necessary to do it. So yes, we will be able to change from one size to another of kite or foil, and this is going to be helpful when we're going to be in a training time, because we will be able to train in low wind and learn how to deal with. But we know that we have no choice, and considering the global efficiency we have, we will need to deal with a certain amount of wind, and we will not be able to go at lower speed of wind.
Awesome. And I want to kind of throw it over to Bruno and Laura. I mean, both of my co-hosts come from kind of two different angles in a lot of ways, although Bruno's an engineer and scientist in his own way. But what are both of your curiosities about these two programs? I know you have different questions for each project, even though they have some similarities. But what are you most curious about, Laura?
I have two questions. One more for the audience, and that's when do you think when is the speed record time for you? And one is a more technical question for both teams. Whether do you prefer or whether you foresee to have more simulations, like to understand the physics, or whether the both teams are more like testing and trialing on the water and then learning from there. So more experiments or more numerical sides, or a combination of both.
Yeah, the target for us is mid-2022, so next year. Be able to start the first world record attempt.
Awesome.
It's kind of the same on our side. We want to be in the water in 2022, and
Just 1 week earlier.
yeah, just 1 week earlier. That's
Hey guys, call us before.
And Laura, that second question was again?
Yeah, the second question is a bit more technical. If your approach is more trialing and testing on the water or in experimental facilities, or doing it more numerically with simulations and the VPPs you were talking about before?
I think we really need to have both approaches at the same time. It's impossible to just only deal with numerical simulation or just with experimental approach. So we really need to have both of them. And basically, we are doing a lot of optimization numerically on like 2D section of profile, on 3D platform for the foil. And on the other side, we really need to go into the water with all the aspects of stability, of control, and for all the interaction between all the elements together. And so we need to have the both approach at the same time. I think, in my opinion, it's impossible to deal just with one, because it's a too complex system at the end. And yeah, both approach.
Yeah. Well, just to as a comment, what we are trying to go into a world of physics that is difficult to predict from the numerical tools. For the hydrodynamics specifically, we are pushing the limit of the software, and we are already out of the capacity of prediction. That's why we're working with the developers of the software in terms of CFD, because we need to get some answers, and they are very happy to try to push their tools further for us. But we cannot rely only on the numerical simulation for the hydro, because basically we cannot get all the answers we need from the CFD.
At the end, it's almost the same for all the experimental setup. At the end, a lot of university and a lot of physics departments, it's a topic which is kind of new, like the interaction between ventilation and cavitation. It's something a few people at the end already studies. So I think there's a lot of ongoing work, and there's a lot to do. And even on an experimental point of view, sometimes it's really challenging for the university as well, because it's a really, really new topic. And that's why we really need to have to go on the water, to have a proof of concept of the boat, and to just sail with it and see how it goes on the water.
Yeah, I think on our side we're really aligned with you, Thomas. We're doing both approaches. So we have the tools, we have the VPP, like with 6 degrees of freedom and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, you need to test on the water. So this is what we did last year, and so like the reality matched quite well with the predictions. But it's true that there are some things that you discover on the water, and especially on the practical side in the end. It's a lot of the discovery you make are like more on the practical side than on the efficiency side.
And I think it's also something we've been doing since the beginning, because we started this project 4 years ago, and we started just building foils, like this type of superventing hydrofoil. So we had no idea it was working. We just saw some pictures from Bolas and sailing with it, and we say, okay, it's so cool. We need to build some and to test them and to see how it feels. Yeah. So we designed this foil and testing them, and we said, okay, there is a real potential to go fast with this. And then we started working on simulations because you cannot optimize a full set of foil just with experimental and testing, so you need tools for this. But then we developed, or Xavier developed the VPP for the projects, and we designed the boat with this, and then we did the scale model. So the small one, it's half the scale of the real one, the real boat. And so we tested this one, like the transition phases, which are really difficult to predict with VPP. And then we went back to simulation. It's always this game between simulation and experimental. You validate and then you optimize with tools and go back to testing. So yeah, I think the feeling of piloting the prototype or sailing on this foil is really important also too.
Yeah, and I think this is something really important. Yes, the transitioning thing is something very like it's a key. You will if you watch the videos of the start of the record of sail rockets, it's very interesting to see how Paul gets the boat launched. It's something very interesting because it doesn't look easy at all, and it's maybe more complicated to launch the boat to 15 knots than to actually sail it to 65. And
Right.
this is a big part of the transitioning is a big part of the record because you need to have a boat that is going to be stable on a very, very, very wide range of speed. And this is something very.
And you can recall that the electronic regulation is not allowed during the record.
And you cannot use electronics for the record or actuation or anything. It's all it's forbidden.
Right.
So we've been doing a lot of testing, and one of the things that we are very lucky to have is Benoit could talk a lot about it. It's the cavitation tunnel.
Thomas knows about it also because tunnel, but now working somewhere else.
Yeah, if the audience hadn't recognized Benoit and Thomas are brothers. So I think that's a fascinating component to all this. I want to kind of move this into a direction of just talking about the limits of both your projects, but this gives us an opportunity to talk about two things. One of them is the type of underwater appendages or foils that you guys are using, and maybe there's a difference between the two concepts of that. And then also to talk about the limits of those foils, because I'm wondering when you aim for a record, and let's still focus on the hydro side of things, are you aiming for 80 knots, hoping to get closer, or are you aiming for 67 knots? So I guess the first question is, and we'll start with SP80, what, if you can label the type of foils that you're using underwater, if they're lifting foils, resistance foils, whatever the term would be, and then what the limits you're finding, like what are you aiming for and what you think the limits are of those superventilating foils, and the same question for Sirocco.
So we have classic foils like that Moth are using and so on. Is it's really like conventional airfoils, but then they are hitting the carrier, the barrier of the cavitation at 55 to 60 knots. And so you can't go faster. So this is what Paul was the first one to break this barrier by using base ventilation foils. So he had the intrados was wetted and the extrados was also wetted. But he had this, I don't know if you have a shape that you can share. It's a kind of triangle. Yeah, we have
the foil of the prototype just here, but it's
hard to see. But so you have it. It looks like a triangle actually. So you have one intrados, one extrados, and a very thick trailing edge. Maybe you can show it to the camera.
Yeah, awesome. No, but not so for something like you're calling it a hyperventilating foil, or what was the term?
So this is base ventilated foil. So it's only the trailing edge that is.
I see.
That there is air that is sucked through the trailing edge, but all the intrados and extrados are wetted. So
wow.
This is very efficient, but it hits. There is another barrier we use that is happening later. Is when you will have the extrado that will ventilate, and then you will lose efficiency again. And then you transition from base ventilated to full ventilation or super ventilation.
Yeah.
Which is less efficient, and which is less efficient. And then there is also a third mode that maybe Sirocco could tell more about it. Is super cavitation, which is so there's these three types of hydrofoil that can break the record of Paul Larsen. Maybe there are others, but
and so basically for the development of this hydrofoil. So we've been testing. This was the first thing we've been testing because it was the key. If you want to go faster than the record from Paul, you know the cavitation. So you need to have something to go through it. And so it was this kind of foil.
Yeah.
So we've been testing them, and now we're doing a lot of CFD simulation, and we spent a lot of time in the cavitation channel. And it's as was said before, it's a nice topic because even in the university side, it's not something that I used to do. So it's really interesting. We are just exploring things, and I think now not a lot of people are really designing new profiles. And for this one, we just started with a simple sketch and say, okay, let's design a profile, let's build it, and let's see how it works. And it's really an interesting way to work. Now the tools are getting more and more performant. And of course, as Gary said, we've been testing in the tunnel like super cavitation, base cavitation, super ventilation, base ventilation, like almost everything. So,
but this is not new. This has been like studied also. I mean, it's for us it's very new, but like especially in the sailing world. But this has been extensively studied by like NASA back in the 70s, and like the motorboats are using it a lot. Motorboats they are using it for propellers, for like turning.
Right.
So it's something new to the sailing world, but not new in like general world.
So for Sirocco, what kind of foils are you using, and what's the concept there, and then also what do you think the limits are? I mean, like I said before, are you able to aim past the 55 knots first barrier, and are you aiming for 70 or 80 knots, or is it not that simple? So type of foil, and then what's the limit?
Okay, starting from the end. From the beginning, all the studies and the development we did was focused on very high speed. So from the origin, we set the objective at 150 kilometers per hour, but which is 80 knots, and all the developments have been done focusing on that. Right. The difference between our project and SP80 philosophy is that, as we said, we wanted to avoid to the maximum the interaction with the free surface, and then we didn't want to have an appendage that was piercing the free surface, because we know that the surface drag, the wave drag of such an appendage can be very high. Mm-hmm. So the philosophy was to have the loaded part of the appendage below the water, not going through the free surface. So this led us to the necessity of designing a super cavitating hydrofoil. So that means that we are not dealing with ventilation on our foil, but dealing with cavitation. That means that we're making the water below the surface boiling in contact of the foil because of the very low pressure on the suction side of the foil. We've been doing a lot of work, like a SP80 team, trying to understand the behavior of the physics there, and that's where we hit the limit of the tool sometimes. But the philosophy is there. We think it is better for basically two reasons. One, as I said, we don't have any loaded surface that pierces through the interface, the water surface, and we don't have the wave drag induced by that. And second, we are pretty confident that cavitation is better than ventilation. And why is that? It's for several reasons, but one of the reasons is that the pressure difference between the suction and the pressure side is going to be higher with super cavitation, and then you're going to get more lift for the same cost of drag. So basically, you're increasing the efficiency of the system. That's our philosophy, but nothing is free. So to have such a kind of a supercavitating foil, you need to have what we call the shaft, but some mechanical part that maintain this foil attached to the body of the craft, and this shaft is gonna go through the water surface. So one of the big part of our work is trying to optimize and design this shaft in order to minimize the drag of this shaft and reduce it to the maximum the interaction of this shaft with the free surface.
Awesome.
Maybe just an interesting point about the shaft, it's that because the system is only in traction, so it means we don't have any bending moment in the shaft.
Right.
This shaft is not rigid, it's something flexible. So
Okay.
in all our setup, the shaft is something, it's like a rope, basically a rope with a fairing or a rope with something around, but it's not rigid. So it means we don't have any problem with bending moment. So in terms of structure, it's way better because we don't have to deal with high aspect ratio or high T sur C thickness. So we really have something which works only in traction. And I think in terms of structure, in terms of weight, and in terms of performance at the end, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm fascinated by that aspect of it because we're only used to seeing cords, you know, connecting kites to boats, but not boats to foils.
Exactly.
I think that's kind of cool. Bruno has a question for you guys.
Yeah, actually, for both of you, I know much better the SP80 prototype, and I know they've been testing quite a lot on the small scale.
Don't tell Sirocco what you know.
So my question mostly to Sirocco, I've been following you on social media and all your achievements. Are you planning on doing a small scale? I know it's going to be harder, but doing a kind of a small scale prototype to testing on. I'm a structural engineer, so I know the loads on these crafts are nuts. Like to achieve the speeds, we need to assess all the stresses. On your side, it's mostly pure tension, which is, let's say, the ideal scenario. But still, this you need to test it, I guess, before actually producing the full scale and get you, Alex, into it and try it.
So I see you following us quite with a lot of attention on our social media. But yes, for your answer, we are making a small scale prototype, which is a third of our final speedcraft. It will be fully radio commanded. That means it will allow us to validate the concept, to make it real, to learn a lot, to crash a lot. But yeah, the RC model is 2.4 meters long, so it's already a very small boat. And yeah, it will allow us to learn and to test a lot of things. We made our craft in collaboration with Persico, which is, I think, one of the sponsors of the forum. Yeah. They made a great job, and we work quite closely with them to make the prototype, and we will present it next week in Monaco. So this is a teasing for a special info for you guys. We will show it to the world next week, and put it in the water just right after.
Awesome.
But it's really a small scale of the final craft, so with all the system and yeah, with the kite, with the foil, and all the system inside to control everything. Yeah.
Cool. And Bruno?
Oh, it's fine. But I know.
You got all his answers.
It's fine.
Cool. This time is going very quickly, and I have like a million questions I'm not going to be able to ask because it's fascinating. I want to move on to the second thing that Don Montague and Paul Larson brought up, besides the air-water interface. and the challenges that you guys are all explaining to us. And that is the human limits of the program. And so I really want to end on talking about that. And there's two parts to that question. The first part is easy. It's safety, right? We asked the question of the IMOCA class for the Vendée Globe and the Route de Rome TJV, and of the America's Cup and Sail GP. We ask, how fast is too fast, like to be dangerous for the actual competitors. And, the sailors will do whatever you throw at them, right? They don't really ask the question, they just do it. But, you all are going, and Paul, before him, and everyone, you guys all stand on the shoulders of people from Weymouth Speed Week in the 1970s. And Fred Haywood and Pascal Maca and all these great windsurfers and sailors. So the first one is easy. What are the concerns about the safety of the skipper? And is that a limit in terms of your performance or in terms of the size of the fuselage or the weight? And then the second one that they brought up that I never considered is that when I asked which one of these projects is going to be successful, and they said the best team, obviously, but that means that the people are able to have the stamina to personally and physically make it through the long haul of solving the problem. So you all have great design concepts, and if both of them were followed through to the end, both of them will probably break that record. But there's a limit in terms of your lives, and how long it might take, and you're starting something that you've never done before. So first question to both teams, what do you think the human limits are, in terms of safety? And then the second is, it's a personal question. What do you guys, have you talked about how long this might take to break the record? Because I know Paul has been through a lot to break his record. So maybe we'll start with SP80 and work our way down.
We've been working already 5 years on this, so so it's already like half of the time of Paul. So yeah, but I think you need to have this passion, this grit, and it's something you have or you don't have, and you're not thinking about it. You're just it's inside of you. We never ask ourselves if we wanted to do this. It's
we started putting some superventilated fin on the kiteboard. We said, okay, if we want to go faster, we need to build the boat, and we need to find some partners, and that's all the project grew up. And I think we are hoping to break the record in 2022, but it can take longer. Paul took, I think, 11 years. Yeah. So it's already 4 years now.
Yeah. But it's funny to see that exactly 1 year ago we were launching our prototype in Switzerland. So it was the first station testing our prototype just 1 year ago. And one thing I remember well is I think it was in October or November. It was getting cold in Switzerland because Switzerland is cold at this period, and it was raining. It was a crazy day. We were testing the prototype. It was 2 a.m. in the morning or 3 a.m. just to be not visible for Sirocco. So testing early, and it's nice because in the team we didn't mention it, but we are the 3 of us who are present today, and we launched the project 3-4 years ago. But now we are 40 people working in the team, and it's mainly students that are involved in the team because they're passionate about sailing, about technology, about innovating in a cool project like this one. And this session was freezing cold, and it was 15 people from the team at 2 a.m. in the morning just doing it because they like it. And I think it's the kind of team you need.
It was freezing. It was raining like showers, and they were all they had nothing waterproof. They were wet, but they were still here watching the boat, and the boat was working not that good. So it was frustrating, but they were still there, and they all came back the next weekend. So this is the spirit we have.
Awesome.
In the team.
If I can add something, I'm a witness to their work on the first iterations, because we were sharing the CNC machine. They were building these supercavitating foils, and I was building wind foils. We were kind of sharing this time and putting our feet on each other for the timing and spending crazy hours in the lab.
Awesome. And I think
just
go ahead.
Yeah, I just may mention a little thing for the safety. For us, it's like the most important thing because we believe that speed is like relative, you know. Like going at 80 knots in a motorboat is slow in a racing motorboat. So
Right.
speed is relative because if like the boat is stable, the feeling of speed will be lower. So this is a big component of the philosophy of SPAT is that we make a boat stable where the pilot will feel extremely comfortable at going at high speed so that he will always push and this is like this is very important. So we placed like the safety of the pilot and the stability, the feeling of stability, like very high in our like requirements.
Yeah.
In terms of measure and equipment, we designed the boat to have equipment similar to the offshore motorboat and the hydroplane.
We're taking a lot of inspiration not from sailing world but from motorboats.
Because they used to go at this kind of speed.
And it's like they have like harness seats, 6-point harness. They have like oxygen bottles and so on and so on. It's like it's another world.
So we are not adapted a sailboat to go faster or to go really fast. We are creating a motorboat with a kite.
Well, I like that idea of relative speeds because it's easy for a sailor to be like, "Oh my God, this is nuts," you know, especially when you don't have anything around you. But let's throw. We only have like 2 minutes left, but let's throw that over to Sirocco in terms of your team. You know, obviously you're passionate, Alex. You've been working on speed records for quite some time, and then just on the personal safety side.
Yeah, if I can answer, we are a small team of 20 people, passionate people, of course, very talented in terms of background and diploma, etc. But finally, it's the passion that counts the most. As you ask, the safety, for sure, for us, it's one of the main concerns. It was almost the origin of the formation of Sirocco. It was for me to be able to go very fast on water in total safety, and that's since the beginning. It's the main concern. That's why we create a cockpit around the pilots to put him and me and them in total safety. The team is they are all concerned about safety. We of course we are inspired by airplane, motorboat, very fast motorboats, that's for sure. But we also inspired by aerospace. We've got some emergency system that you can dream of in a James Bond car. So a lot of stuff are going on. But yeah, the safety it's the main concern. And if I can add that you're talking about safety, I will talk about control and get used to very high speeds. When I see my career in kiteboarding, I was able and I still able to kite at 50 knots, almost a hand in the back.
Yeah.
Because my brain is used to go very fast and in total safety and in total control, and that's what we want to achieve with our Speedcraft, and the team is fully working on. And yeah, they are passionate. They can go in very high wind, in very cold weather. Hopefully, in south of France, we don't have rain. That's well known. So sorry about that, but yeah, passionate people and of course safety as a main concern.
Awesome. Well, it's so funny that you bring up getting used to the speed, because we had a hydrofoil training group, like 2 schools, hydrofoil training schools. And they said when a human gets going really fast, your natural instincts take over and it's flight or fight, right? And if you're a flight person, you have to get over that. If you want to run away, it's a problem. So I love that concept, and I love, we're going to end on this. I love Paul's idea that when you stand on the head of that course, and Alex, you know this well, and you're getting ready to send it, I know that there's a lot of respect. I know you guys are competing for the same record, but I know Alex knows this, that when you stand at the top of that course, you have a lot of respect for the people who came before you. And I know everyone's thinking about that. I know it's something that inspires us all, but you are also taking a tremendous amount of risk in these careers. So the sailing world and the greater world at large really appreciates people that take those risks and inspires us. So that's no small thing what everyone's trying to attempt. So the final note, any advice from each team for people who want to take on what Paul and those before you have taken on and what Alex you've done? Any advice to engineers and young sailors?
Yeah, talk with people, friends about your passion of going fast, and you will find. I think it's the same for SPAT. Those guys, they just met because they wanted to go fast, and that's the same for us. That's first a question of passion.
Yeah,
passion to go fast, passion to take risk, but I would say measure risk and get used to those high speeds.
Awesome. And SB80, any advice? I'd say don't do it.
I had the chance to meet Paul when I was, I think, 16 years old in Weymouth, like doing the Weymouth Speed Week in Kaiserslautern. And one thing he said, like, if there is somebody who will break the world sailing speed record one day, there will be someone like building his boat in his backyard just because he's passionate about it. And I think it's really what drives us to break this record. Like, there is no money to win. It's just passion and just make it.
Awesome.
For the meteor.
Great, everyone. Well, hey, thank you so much. Again, we can go on and on. This is easily my favorite topic. We didn't even get to the trickle down, even though we talked to Don and Paul about that in terms of what you learn and how that could be sent into the transportation world, into recreational sports, or even racing. So that must be for the other, for another time.
Yep.
But thank you, everyone. Bruno, Lauda, we'll go through the names. Maël, Xavier, and Benoit from SP80, and Alex, Roman, and Thomas from Sirocco. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for everything you do. We're inspired by it. And Foiling Week still goes on. We're done tomorrow. The forum ends today. And thanks, everyone, for joining. So have an awesome day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.